Welcome to Speakernomics, the official podcast of the National Speakers Association. Created by speakers for speakers. It's your fast track to sharper skills, bigger impact, and a smarter speaking business. Subscribe and download using the link below. And step into the spotlight.
Welcome to Speakernomics. This is the official podcast of the National Speakers Association, and my name is Thom Singer, and I have the honor to be one of your 4 rotating hosts this year for the podcast. So you should be turning in every single week, because every week we have somebody else interviewing really smart people about how to make more money in this business or how to be a better speaker on stage. And today we are honored because our guest is John Register. John, welcome to Speakernomics.
Hey, Tom, I'm so happy that you all are doing this show and moving it forward. What a gift that you all have been.
Well, it has been really fun. You know, I started the show 5 years ago, I think, if we do the math, and I did it for a couple years. It's fun to be back here in this chair only once a month, so it's not too much work anymore, but it's fun to be here and get to talk to people like you who are out there making things happen. So John Register is a CSP. He is a member of the Speaker Hall of Fame, so he is John Register, CSP, CPAE. He is also a silver medalist in the Paralympics, and he is an NSA board member. So here's the thing about John Register, if you don't know him, and if you don't know him, you should know him, and that is John is a breather. Now you're like, Tom, what do you mean by a breather? Well, breath is inspiration, and that's what he does. He inspires people. Whatever he does, he adds life and breath to the conversation, and he is always trying to help people rise. And today we are going to talk about how you can amputate the need to follow the crowd and go deeper in your lane. So John, if we're looking at
I see what you did there, Tom. See what you did there.
We're going to amputate, see, because you're in the other chair. So that's where we're going with this. So if you're going to tell people how to not follow the crowd and go deeper in their lane, what are your 2 tips for speakers to make that work?
Thanks again, Tom. You know, I think the 2 things I would say, the 2 tips is a strong network of speakers or masterminders or NSAers that can help you in the tough times. And then secondly is get back to the basics. Stay on the wall. Don't go chasing after squirrels.
Yes, absolutely. So let's look at that first tip. Let's dive in here. And of course, you're talking to me. That's my topic, right? I talk about the fact that human interaction, that what I call HI, is what we need more than ever right now. So you're saying have a strong network with speakers, with clients, with people in industry, etc. So we all know that, right? We're a social group, us professional speakers. But sometimes people forget. We get up in our own head, we're working too hard, and we don't cultivate those relationships. So what do you mean when you say, hey, have a great network? What are you talking about when you say that?
When I say that, I'm really talking about this world that has elevated us and quickened us so fast that we're holding on in this AI gen world. And so people are beginning to phone it in. We have Speak that's out there that is now AI centric, and everybody sounds the same because we're all using the same prompts to get the thing done that we should be doing ourselves. And so we have this generic that's out there in the marketplace. And I believe that the more AI we go, the more authentic I have to become, or what is it? You know, in what's that movie? The Will Smith, iRobot, right? So the more analog I have to become, because I don't want to be lumped in all of that flop that's out there. And the conversations that I'm having right now with either speaker bureau agents or planners or production folks is they're really looking for that individual who is not phoning it in, because they can tell on stage. They can tell that they're a mile wide, an inch deep, because they got their information on chat or Claude or something, and then trying to piece it together with their content. And that's what I mean by it. We need to get back to, you know, a strong network of speakers to help us elevate our conversations.
Yeah, I think, we have focused so much on technology and productivity, and everybody's looking for shortcuts, that we've created a whole world of what I call efficient strangers. So what can a speaker do to be more of a deliberate human when it comes to their relationships inside this industry? Because you're right, there's speakers, there's speakers bureaus, there's meeting planners, there's audience members, there's people in general. What are some tips speakers can do to make sure that they're cultivating real human relationships?
So I'm going to go back to something I just said. I want to make sure that I become analog. So what does that mean? I have a lot of folks that follow me on LinkedIn, like first level connections. And LinkedIn has given us a way to engage with those members if we so choose. So I choose every year to create a birthday video, a job video, like a congratulations job, because LinkedIn tells me that. And they also tell me when their anniversary is. And so I create 3 separate videos and I create it inside of my Keep on Google. And every day, or most days, I'll copy that with the video link and I'll insert it into that prompt so that I put your name, Thom, and then comma, insert my language and my video, and it goes to you. So now I'm in contact with all those 15,000 people every single part of the year. And what happens, like now I'm in my 5th year doing it, people are expecting them and they're reaching back out. And I've gotten 3 or 4 gigs a year just by doing that alone. Now, did that happen overnight? No, not at all. But I made the investment in the relationship, and people are like, you do that every day? Well, I used to. I'm not, now it's probably, if I don't do it every day, I catch up on the weekend, right?
Right.
To make sure that I have those messages out there. But they love getting them because they're all different. They're all customized for that group. And yes, I take a little liberty with I've created the content before, so I'm not doing specifically individual, but it is going to you. And it is going to something that I've taken time just instead of just pushing the button, the AI button that says, happy birthday, congratulations, great year that you had, right? I'm gonna create a whole opportunity. And what I do with that, Thom, is on the celebrations where it's a job or it's a celebration of an anniversary, I then add a little tag to the end of it saying, hey, I know we're first level connections. If you know of an opportunity that might be out there for me, I would love it to deepen the conversation. Congratulations again. And that one line opens up a conversation for me as I ask, probing questions for them during that celebration time.
So it's interesting because there are vendors out there who would say, but John, you could automate the whole thing so you wouldn't have to take
Right.
any time and it would just go, insert Thom, happy birthday, insert you're the greatest. Happy, birthday, thanks for being cool. And it could be all generic language and not customized. And they'd say,
That's right.
you could be sipping margaritas, but you're still taking the time, even though the video is pre-created, you're still taking the time to make sure that the message is tailored to that person. So many people are trying to
Yep.
remove that.
Yeah, and I think that's what we need to amputate, right? I think we need to amputate the let somebody else do it for you. I mean, when you think about it, it's not a lot of work. It's just a little bit of work. And when I'm going through them, I will always inevitably see somebody that I really need to contact with because I lost contact with them. And I get that chance 3 opportunities every single year with either because everybody's having a birthday, everybody has a work anniversary. So at least 2 times I'm engaged with them. And if I see somebody, I now can engage. Hey, how the kids? How's the family? And I know we talked about this last year. Just want to reconnect with you. And that begins, they know it's authentic. They know it's me because I'm in there all the time doing it with them.
Right.
Communicating with them and asking about what they're doing and giving them information, 7 times trying to give them value and then 3 times asking for the business. So that's how I look at it.
So another thing that you mentioned and that I think is so important is having that network with other speakers and with bureaus and having mastermind type situations. One of the things is, being a member of NSA exposes you to so many people. So why is building relationships? I say it's the secret sauce to this business. If you don't have relationships with working speakers, I don't know how you ever succeed in this business. So why do you think it's important to build those relationships within the NSA community and beyond?
I think first of all, exposure expands expectations, and so that's come from Bishop Dixon, and I love how he puts things together. But it's a beautiful way to say it, and it's exactly right. When you're around those individuals, when you're around those people that are doing the same thing you're doing, you get a chance to learn from them and see what's working, what's not working, what the new trends that are out there, what's not a trend, what is here to stay. And you get these conversations. I mean, we've all been, many of us have been part of different associations. That's where we learned the T. That's where we learned the trade. I was a part of the National Recreation and Parks Association. Now I'm a member of the National Speakers Association. Why? Because this is where you learn. Because there's so many people out there that think they know how to do this business, but they really make some missteps in it. You know, what do you do with if you have two bureaus competing for your business and you don't, and the third party's called you? How do you handle that agency? I have my way of doing it, but other speakers have different ways to do it. The second thing is it gives it some consistency. So, for example, when I'm working on a project and I know I'm checking in with my mastermind group every Tuesday and I put that project before them, they're holding me accountable to say, how much did you work on that? They're calling me throughout the week. Hey, did you get this done? Did you make the telephone calls? All those things that I might struggle with, they're holding me to account. And it's sometimes very difficult to do just this job on your own because you don't know what to do next. And having a community there that can tell you, that has the roadmap in front of you, makes it easy. In respect to the National Speakers Association, there are so many people that have done it, like in the $1 million mastermind or the $1 million group, and you have other people that are in there that has made 8 figures all the way, down to thousandaires, right? You get a chance to see it all, and these folks, they give you the secret sauce. If you just hang around enough individuals, they're going to give you the tea of how they actually made it. And it's your job to implement it. They're not going to implement it for you. But once you get in those networks, now, I'm writing my first book. Well, it's the second book, but it's my first book that's on me, what I want to do. And I've gotten so much great feedback on how to navigate. Do I want to be a self-published author? Do I want to be, published author? All these things I can bounce these ideas against and get a runway of what the final product actually looks like before I start making those investments with people that can sell me the moon, but haven't done the work at all in their own business, in their own life.
Yeah, I think it's so important to have those speaker friends because they can answer those questions. They support you when you're down. But here's the other thing, right? I see you every year at Influence. I see
Right.
you every year at the CSP Summit. I don't go every year to Thrive, but I've seen you at Thrive. And you're on the board of NSA. And I volunteer for a lot of things around NSA. I hear the question from people, why do you give so much time to NSA? So why do you put so much time into attending events and being on the board?
When I went to my first speakers conference was in 2012. I wasn't even trying to be a speaker, right? It wasn't even called Influence then. I don't know what it was called, but it was a conference.
Summer conference, yeah.
Summer conference. Okay, that's because you know more than I do. And, and I went, and I tell the story often. I had just come back from London. The Paralympic and Olympic Games were over in London that year, 2012, and my boss sent me over there, and I slayed this speech. I'm working for the Olympic Committee at the NASDAQ. And I come in thinking I'm this hot shot, 8 on a scale of 10, speaker, my collar. And I run into Ruby Newell Legner, right? And so she invites me to the Sports Celebrity Speaker Workshop. Now, I'm not there to become a speaker. I'm there to try to find a coach to help my Olympic and Paralympic athletes tell their stories better. But I'm not in Olympic garb because I know I'm going to be accosted when I get in there. So she invites me to the Sports Celebrity Speaker Workshop. Content is off the charts amazing. I'm in the front row, I'm taking copious notes. And then she asked, would somebody like to go and give us 5 minutes of your best stuff? And we'd like to hear you. So I said, oh my gosh, I just slayed the NASDAQ. Me, put my collar up. I'll do it, Ruby. And off I go, turn around, face the crowd, my peers. I can't put 2 words together, Tom. My mouth is dry. My hands are sweaty. And I still have 4 minutes and 45 seconds left to go. So I sit down after it's over to the sheepish applause. And Ruby says, well, who would like to go next? Every hand in the room goes up after that because I know I can do better than that guy. And that evening, I cut across the field. That evening, I saw Jeannie Robertson take the stage, the late, great Jeannie Robertson, and she just slayed it. And I was not looking at her as a speaker. I was looking at her craft and how she was doing it. And I realized I was not an 8 on a scale of 10. I was a 3 on a scale of 15. I didn't know what I didn't know. and I began investing in this community because I saw a roadway, I saw a pathway that I could actually, if I wanted to, leave the United States Olympic Committee and go full time as a professional speaker. And so I kept that, in the pocket, earned my CSP designation, the Certified Speaking Professional designation, and you don't earn the CPAE, but I didn't want. I knew I only went after the CSP because I knew I would have built a business. So that's why I kept coming back. That was it was in the mid-year in June, July timeframe. That was my annual reset. I shifted my entire conference or my entire year off of that conference because I learned so many great ideas that I just had to sift through them. I would stay an extra day and I would put white paper on the wall and say, okay, I've learned this, and this. What do I want to go after right now? What can I do in the next, 3 months, 6 months? And that became my blueprint to CSP and then eventually leaving the United States Olympic Committee and being a full-time professional speaker.
God, that is so inspirational. That is breath right there. And I will tell you, if you're listening to this and you're newer to the business and you want to be a CSP, you see yourself as possibly being in the Hall of Fame, do what John did and get to influence and spend that extra day going through listing everything that you learned and then put it into action. That's great. So, John, we could talk about this forever, but we've got to get on to your second tip when it comes to, this whole idea of moving forward. So what is your second tip for speakers when it comes to this whole topic of moving forward and going deeper?
I always say when you're struggling, something's gotten off track. So get back on track, get back to the basics. Whatever that routine is, whatever you do that is rote for you, uh, get on it. Because I don't know about you, but in my career, I usually follow after things that look good, but really aren't driving in the revenue. The things I like to do, but they're not driving revenue to the bottom line. And so I have to really control myself because for much of my life, I was a person who was working for somebody else. I was a person working for the United States Olympic Committee. I was a person working for the United States Army. And then I was a soldier. And I was working for Tyson's Foods, all those things. I was given a check, but now this is me having to drive my own business. And so I think that's why another reason why you have to be an influence, because it's not only how to be a better speaker, it's how to build the business, the better business. And when I get off track, I always go back to the basics. What is it that I need to do? How many calls do I have to make? When I have my CRM together, what am I doing that's driving revenue and maybe it's the marketing that's driving the revenue, or maybe the revenue is driving some more marketing. Whatever it is, I need to be out there engaging my network to be singing the John registered praises because they're the ones that are going to take me forward, not necessarily me. Other people have to do that for you. So that's the marketing piece of it to get you out in front.
So many speakers, though, it's so easy to see those, as you referred to it, kind of, shiny objects and think, oh, and they get off track and they follow that crowd. They do what everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
How do you get yourself back in your own lane when it's so easy to do this and that and go this way and go that way? And, oh my gosh, this speaker said to do this and this seminar said to do that. How do you get back into your lane?
Well, what I do is I say, what was my routine when it was going great? And I like to get up in the morning. We have a little prayer call that we do with our church. Then the second thing is I listen to like a little Bible study thing. And then I go for a swim at the local high school. I volunteer down there. And as a trade-off, they let me go to the pool in the morning, and the custodial staff lets me in. And I do like 1,000 to 1,500 yards in the morning, like 3 times a week. And I get back home, shower up, and that kind of sets my day for me. And the previous day, I have set the calendar for the next day and try to load up all the calls I need to do, so I'm not having to fiddle around with that on the day that I'm starting to do the work. Now, does it always happen like that? No. But when I start getting off track, that's what I go back to make sure that I'm engaged with it. And then I did something different this year because I am trying to build another revenue stream, right? So I've been out here about 7 years now, full time away from the United States Olympic Committee. And the revenue stream is trying to do a like like a seminar. I would call it that, like a seminar for high level executives, the people that I usually speak to, and so it became like an offshoot of this opportunity I have that of a group that I advise on the New York Stock Exchange. It's a veteran-owned broker dealer on this New York Stock Exchange, and they told me that, oh my gosh, you get whatever time that you need to use our space, come on in. Like to what? To the NYSE. I said, for real? And so all this thing just dropped in my lap, and so
That's a pretty good location to host your seminar, I think.
it's a nice location. And we get the opening bell, you get the closing bell, you get a lunch, you get breakfast, so you never know who you're going to meet on the floor that day. And it's kind of a cool thing, a cool space to have a meeting that I go through my strike point philosophy. We can talk about that if you want to. But the point is, there are some things that you do want to go after because you're trying to expand what is naturally expandable, right? What is naturally doing. So I'm talking to folks like Michelle Villalobos, because I haven't done this before. Michelle Villalobos, she is CSP, and she's great at what she does in our community. She's on the board as well. So we get access. Again, the access and the exposure expands our expectation for what is actually possible. So I'm always leaning into that and getting back to the basics on how I can elevate.
Nice. Nice. Well, and one of the things, we talked about is getting back on track. Sometimes in this business, something could happen that derails you. There's a lot of things that can do it. Maybe there's a global pandemic. Maybe you have some sort of a family issue. There's a lot of things that can happen. And some people bounce back quicker and easier than others, and some people struggle. It's no secret I was pretty vocal for a number of years about, some problems I went through in the business, and I figured out my way back. What is your advice for people who are struggling and maybe they had a successful business and then they hit a few bumps in the road? What are your tips for them to get back on track?
It's really hard, and I've had the struggles, right? And coming out of the last 2 years, the engagement slowed up. I wasn't getting called by a lot of the bureaus because other speakers were coming up and they were moving
Yeah.
those individuals. I was
There's
finding
always
that
those
my
new
name.
there's always
What's
those
that?
new shiny speakers in this business. They keep coming.
Always the new shiny. That's cool. I
And it's
think
good.
it's great. It's good. Um, and then it keeps rotating. You want to put fresh faces in there, and I get it. Um, and at the same time, to get back on track, I think you can't be away from the fire. So, when you take an ember away from the log away from the fire, it cools off. You have to be close to that flame, and that flame is NSA. The flame is the National Speakers Association. This organization has survived it. I mean, are you going to really go pay tens of thousands of dollars to a group that's a fly by night, that can't stay sustainable, that is, doing things that be illicit, and now you've invested all of this time and resources, but they haven't even made it 10 years, 15 years in the business. This has started in, like, what, 1974 or something like that, and has sustained itself. So even though it might not be the largest organization that's out there, it is strategic. It's a giving organization. And if you're close to that fire, I guarantee you're going to find the fastest way back to the path that you want to be on.
Yeah. And I can say from my own experience that, it was a long, and I went through some dark personal times with it, but it was people in this industry, people from NSA, who, one person in particular, put a reminder in her phone to call me every single week and make sure I was doing okay emotionally. And after I got to the other side, I'm like, did you have a reminder in your phone? She goes, every week for a year and a half. And that is something you don't find in just any transactional group. That comes from a family. And that's what I think we have going on here. Hey, John, it wouldn't be fair to the audience to have you here without going into some of what you teach. You mentioned sort of your framework of some stuff, and your keynote that you do, the most popular keynote that people call John Register for, is called Amputate to Elevate, Transform Disruption into Advantage. So let's talk a little bit about what lessons you have in your speech, because I think it's great when speakers come on here and talk about tips for speakers. But what do you teach the real world? Because here's a little secret for everybody. Speakers, we live in the real world. We're just business people. We're just real world people. So what is your framework? What is it that you teach in like 2 minutes?
Sure. I listen to a lot of executives, a lot of CEOs. I was a CEO for, and I know you were CEO I think you still are a CEO. And so I listen to a lot of executive chatter and a lot of talk. What are they thinking about? And disruption is one of the things that they talk about a lot right now.
There's a
Not
lot of it.
disruption because it's disruptive, but because they're using disruptors as their advantage play, right? They're acquiring M&A right now, right? Merger and acquisition. That's how they're building blocks and they're putting things together. So I look at disruption as the advantage, right? The advantage play that we have. So what I teach is a methodology called strike point. And it's to build like the lightning leader. Lightning has a strike. They have strike points. A hurdler has a strike point on going into the hurdle and going off of the hurdle. So I was a hurdler for that. The long jumper has a strike point when they hit the strike pad to do the long jump. And when I have phantom pain, it feels like a lightning strike. So all that kind of goes in my IP of things I could talk about with lightning. So what's the path? The first is the reckoning. The reckoning moment is realizing that we do not get back what we desire to have back when some type of trauma impacts our life. So we have to grieve that loss. Most of the time, we'll hear it come out as, "Man, I wish things would go back to the way they were. Can't we just go back? I mean, I've been at this company for 15 years. How come we can't just do it this?" Right? That's what we hear in the reckoning. The next is once we graduate, we're in the revision. So we have multiple visions of what's possible, but there are three opposing forces: other people, society, and ourselves. And that holds us back. Why? Because other people believe for us what we can or cannot do, often based upon what they believe they could or could not do if they were in our situation. And then society, because we conform to what society has dictated. And it's very hard to break away from the societal norms because we don't want to be ostracized from our groups. And then third, I'm the one that has to attack the hurdle. So once I attack the hurdle, I am now on this strike, have made a commitment. When you leave the ground attacking a hurdle, when lightning strikes, you don't restrike again. You can't rerun the hurdle. The parabolic curve takes care of itself once you leave the ground. So you get back on the ground, you run into the next one. But that's what I think people miss in my framework is that a commitment means you cannot go back to the way it used to be. It's impossible. A chasm has been crossed. The amputation is the amputation. I do not get my leg back. That's a commitment. If you think you can go back to the way it used to be, or you believe you can, you're in the reckoning. You're not in the what I call the renewal. And in the renewal, now I'm renewed, right? I have to give myself space and grace to grow because I'm no longer the expert. I've known how to walk on two legs for 29 years. But now I have to learn to work on an artificial leg. Can't go back. You've been a managing director for 10 years. Now they just put you into the executive leadership role. You've crossed that chasm. You can't go back the other way. You've crossed it. You think you might know what the job role entails, but you really don't until you actually get into it. You're that new CEO. You close the door for the first time. You got the board on your heels, even right now, because boards are getting more involved in the CEO's business and work and have been in the past because the window has closed or is shortening because of how fast CEOs have to make decisions.
Story of my life. I understand that.
You understand? Absolutely, you understand that. I know you do. And so that's, if you don't know that stuff, that means you probably haven't been an executive. And so if you're out there trying to teach that, it's very difficult if you have not sat in that seat. You're only pulling things that AI might be able to give you, right? But if you understand and know how that CEO talks, you can push yourself in those positions, like the New York Stock Exchange, and getting these executives to look up because you're saying, I know your board's on your case right now. And I know your window is shorter, but let me give you a framework. So you got the reckoning, revision, the renewal. And after that, I say that the reason why this is so exhausting is because there's no finite end to it. This is resonance because I can be at a reckoning moment in one area of my life, a revision in a total other area, and a renewal in a third area of my life. And so it all works in concert. So when are you putting your rest breaks in? Because the most important time for an athlete is recovery. The most important time for a soldier is recovery. Everything that we do needs to have a recovery period built into it, but we don't do it. we just keep grinding. And so we become less and less effective with it. And so that's what I teach. I teach how to be more effective by giving yourself the space and grace to grow and making the decision decisively with the least amount of information that's necessary to make the appropriate decision.
I am so glad I asked you to talk about what it is you speak about, because it was so relevant to everybody in the speaking business, and especially that part about you can't go back. Once we've committed to go forward, once society has changed, once the industry changes, there's no, you can wish all you want, but you can't go back.
Wish all you want.
And I think that's a lesson that in this industry, all of us need to be listening to right now. Hey, John, before I let you go, any final words for anybody who has listened for 30 minutes to our episode, who is still with us? Any little nugget of information that you wish every speaker knew?
Yeah, I think the first is, if you're a person that's out there that's contemplating, using the skill sets that you have. So say you're a founder, or you're a VC, private equity or something out there, and you're looking to kind of tell that journey story. Come across the National Speakers Association. We're going to be in Austin, Texas this year. I know I'm going to date the show, but come on out there July 25th to 27th and really learn how to get that story out, because your voice is valuable. And I think the second one, if you're a professional full-time speaker and you're out there, if you've made some money based upon the spoken word, you should be at the National Speakers Association, because we need you and your voice in that tent. Whether it's a podcaster, whether you're a professional speaker on the keynote speaking, or your breakout, or you're doing training, be a part of the community, because we're lifting each other up as we figure this out together. And I just want to say, Thom, thanks again for what you do, the work that you do, your other three co-hosts that do this show. You're so valuable to the community, and we really are elevated because of you.
Well, thank you very much. It's a joy to be able to be back here in this chair at Speakernomics. I ran it for the first 2 years after it became Speakernomics, and to come back into this chair is a huge honor for me, and I'm grateful to everybody to have given me that chance. But going back to what you just said about influence, in July in Austin, Texas, there is not a better city to go to a conference in. Some of you are thinking New York, San Francisco, Las Vegas. No. If you haven't been to a conference in Austin, Texas, and eaten your weight in barbecue and tacos, you have not lived. Obviously, as you can tell, I live in Austin. I run the Austin Technology Council, so economic development is part of what I do for the city. So I am a little bit biased, but I am also a little bit right. So make sure you get your butt to Austin, Texas in July, because it is the place to be. We're going to talk about the Austin Conference of NSA for decades. So FOMO, totally want to be here. So
absolutely.
John Register, thank you so much for everything that you do. Thank you for being a guest. Of all the rotating hosts, I'm the luckiest one in the world, because I got to interview John Register. To all of you who are listening, to all of you who are listening to the show, tune in next week, the week after that, because there are constantly experts who are going to teach you how to build a better business and how to be better on stage. And you know what? Speakernomics is the podcast where you learn that stuff. So tell every one of your speaker friends to tune in to Speakernomics, and we'll see you back here next show.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Speakernomics. If you want more bookings, credibility, and connections, your NSA community is waiting for you. Join NSA today. Click the link below and follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and download this podcast wherever you listen.